Howdy, folks. Welcome back to NextDev FM. My name is Dan Guswin. I'm joined by my lovely co host.
Ryan Vogel.
And today we have a very interesting guest, the man himself, the domains guy from the Triangle Company. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Dylan, give us a 2-minute origin story. What put you into first programming in the first place?
Oh, geez. My first step into programming was in middle school, probably seventh grade. Me and my best friend Josh needed a extra elective to take, and we took a Visual Basic 6 course. And so I was like 12 or 13 or however old you are at that time, writing VB6, and I got hooked and started writing and learning like HTML and CSS. MySpace was very hot at the time, so having a little bit of an understanding of what was going on there hooked me more, and then got into like a little bit of JavaScript, and in high school got real into World of Warcraft and wrote a lot of WoW add-ons or mods with Lua, and just kept consuming programming, and the rest is kind of history.
Very cool. Did you do the custom MySpace profile themes or whatever it was at the time?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's pretty cool. So you have been doing Visual Basic. Can you tell us what the project was?
Geez, I don't. It was just like a whole course of learning programming through Visual
Oh, I
Basic.
see.
It was like
Oh, I see. It was a course.
yeah. It was like
I
a
see.
semester of just like learning programming through VB6.
I see. Pretty cool. Ryan has a affliction for older technologies such as VB6.
I don't. I've just been forced into taking them. My first programming language was QBasic, and
Nice.
then my dad is a programmer, and he taught me some VB.net. And I just recently, which has been kind of popular, not like amongst me, but it's just kind of been popular, is I took a COBOL class, which was, I mean, not that relevant, but it was certainly interesting. But
Dude, there are so many jobs out there that people are sleeping on that are converting old legacy systems from COBOL to like enterprise Java. Like if you're struggling to find a job, learn Java in Spring and go apply at big banks. Like it's needed.
honestly, I would reverse that. If you want to get something like that, don't learn Java, learn COBOL. COBOL, I gotta say, to understand it would be significantly harder, because we had a project where we had to do like a Java conversion project, because you got to flex your mind to what you really need to. There's not a lot of COBOL docs. There are a ton of Java docs. And I've said this before, but one of the main issues with COBOL is back in the day, they would delete the source code off of the machines because they're like, oh, okay, it just works. All right, let's go ahead and clean everything up. And all that would be left is the compiled binary. And they would have to, we had to reverse engineer one of COBOL's compiled binaries and then convert it into a Java function. And that's why I now write everything in TypeScript, because that was painful. I never want to open up the deassembler program again. That was, especially for mainframe. There's no docs anywhere. But anyways, I
it was good for you. It builds character.
Right.
Yeah.
That builds character.
Yeah, true.
Sure.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, no. You started with these sort of like not low level, but like lower level languages. How'd you get into web dev, and then how'd you get into Vercel? But we'll give a little teaser on the Vercel, because we'll get around back to that. But how'd you primarily get into web dev, other than sort of the stuff that we talked about?
Yeah, so I mean, after like VB6, like the next thing I really picked up was like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So like I've been writing JavaScript since I was like 12 or 13, so 19 years now. Not well, obviously. I probably didn't really know what I was doing until college. But but like web dev has always been like the layer of the stack I've been at. Until early last year, I hadn't even written a low level language. Like I've never written C and I've never written C++. Rust was my first forte into kind of a lower level language. But to step back, high school, I go to college for CS. So I go to a small state school in Pennsylvania called Mansfield University. My education is a complete joke. So I'm pretty much self-taught. My CS program fell apart the first semester, and we can dive into that story. It ends with basically the entire faculty retiring, leaving on medical leave, or being arrested on campus by the FBI.
Okay, so we're actually going to skip everything else and just dedicate the rest of the episode to this. Elaborate. Give us a deep dive into this, because this is I'm more interested in this. Screw all of our questions.
What?
So, yeah, I went to a tiny state school, and like the CS program was like fine, nothing to write home about, but like also not bad, like your general CS program. My first semester, a professor ends up having to leave. A very tenured professor gets cancer and has to leave on medical leave, survives, but doesn't come back. Another professor retires at the end of December. And then I want to say the start of the spring semester, or maybe over winter break. I don't remember where in my first year, but the head of the program, who like built the whole thing, made it worth anything. His name was Dr. Daniel McKee. I think it's McKee. You can look this up. There will be articles. He got arrested by the FBI for running a child pornography server on Tor and selling the content. And I'm pretty sure it was running off like the school's CS lab hardware. So all of the tenured professors were gone. And then they hired associate professors from like overseas, and like they were like IT business professors. So it was a joke. I basically got no education. Like I could have skipped every class and got like basically a 4.0 the rest of my couple years in college. But I was very into programming. It was my hobby. It was what I read about every day. And I got very lucky, and I landed an internship with State Farm as a sophomore, and then interned there twice and went full-time. And that was my first full-time position. And I was doing Java and JavaScript at State Farm.
What the?
Yep. I told you.
That is an interesting origin. Very cool. That means like it's a good place to come from, right? For like as a place to educate computer science professionals, probably.
Wait, what?
Well, the fact that people are either going sick or getting arrested. I'm not talking about this particular story, but I imagine there are others. If you mentioned that.
What do you mean by like I'm not following here?
So you were just telling us how on campus, right? People are either leaving on medical leave or are getting arrested, right?
Yep.
That means it's probably a cool place to study.
I to skip in to teach their classes and stuff like that.
I wouldn't say it's like this was like in the middle of the mountains. Like there's one traffic light in town. The closest grocery store was a Walmart 3 miles down the road. You could literally end up walking uphill to class and back, depending on your schedule. It was built into the side of a mountain. I got a lot out of it. I joined a fraternity and ended up being the president of a fraternity for 2 years. And that was very good for me and just like growing and maturing. But I wouldn't say the education was very good. I would say very few of my peers are probably in the tech industry that were in the CS program. And the ones that are the ones that were also like motivated and self-taught.
Right. Yeah. That's such an interesting, I can definitely tell like at any of the previous the companies that you've worked at, where they're like what's one cool thing about your past or something like that? That was like your go-to story. You're like, well, back in college, this happened. Definitely beat anybody else's like, I went on a cruise this summer or something like that.
I do have another interesting card up my sleeve for my career path.
Oh boy.
So I go to State Farm, and I didn't know this at the time, but I had done well as an intern, and I got hired on, and they were basically like, you can come work at our headquarters in dead central Illinois, or you can go to Phoenix, Arizona to our new tech hub in Tempe. And I was like, I'm moving out to Arizona and going out there to do that. So graduate college, move across the country. I didn't know it at the time, but I got hired as like a level 2 engineer rather than like a level 1.
Nice.
And in my first couple months, I was doing well and exceeding expectations. And looking back, this was a red flag. I had 3 managers. I don't know why I had 3 managers. But one of the managers was like, we're going to promote you. And he also didn't know I was a level 2. So he went to put in for a promotion. And he's like, well, we can't promote you. You're already a level 2. And like our department's already like exhausted the like on the spot bonus budget for the year. So like, you're just going to have to wait. And at the same time, a few months later, all my peers that I started with, all the interns that I had got hired with and that I've known for 2 years, they all got hired at level 1s and they got promoted to level 2, which came with a 10% increase. And like, we all talked about what our salaries were. So like, despite me like exceeding expectations and technically having better performance, I'm now making less money than all of them.
So your L2 salary was like their L1 salaries?
Yeah, I got hired at the same salary as them. Yeah. I didn't know I was at L2. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was like, I'm going to go get a job offer and I'm going to force State Farm's hand to pay me more money. And I end up applying at this company called Visionist Inc. It's a company in Columbia, Maryland. And it goes really well. And I end up accepting the job because they gave me an offer for over double my salary. And State Farm wasn't going to match that. Now, where this gets interesting is that Visionist was a defense contractor for NSA, CIA, and FBI. So I spent 3.5 years doing work for the DoD and the intelligence community. And I got super lucky. I would never, ever work in defense or intel if it wasn't at a small defense contractor. Like I worked with probably 85 to 90 people. And of that group of people, probably 80 of them were engineers, data scientists, malware analysts, and everyone like just cared deeply about what they worked on and their craft. And they were super early to react. So like, that's part of the reason I got hired there is when I was at State Farm in 2014, early 2015, somewhere in there, State Farm had kicked off a project to pilot rebuilding an MVP of their like mobile banking app, or not their mobile banking app, their just normal web app for their bank. And they spun up like these 3 tiny teams. One was building with Ember, one was building with Angular, and then React had just like the first React conference where like Jordan and Tomo and all those announced it, like had just happened or had just, I don't know, been making the rounds on, I guess, YouTube at the time or whatever. And so we dove into React really early, and I got put on the team that was trying React. So I've been writing React since like the days of Mixins and very shortly after it came out. And the Visionist Inc. Also started using it very early. So like when they heard that I had already been writing React and this company was planning on going in on React, it was a good match. So I got to basically be doing like full stack JavaScript from 2015 on forward.
You've been in this environment for a hot minute.
Yeah, quite. I've been here since like the days of like Browserify and Webpack was first coming out, and Bower and Gulp, all that. I've been through it all.
Yeah, that I definitely know what all of those are. Yeah, I'm tracking.
So that means that was you did class components then for majority of your time there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hooks had just come out right before I left Visionist Inc.
Okay.
My my little claim to fame in the Intel community is the government or the DoD has a internal mirrored npm repository that you can also publish private packages to. I published the first React component to that, and it was a classification picker. So anytime you're dealing with classified data, you have to label it with a classification, and that's driven by you basically have a private key that's associated with your badge that's loaded into your browser, and that filters everything you can see, and that also gives you the list of things you can classify data with. So this component was driven off of that, and you could tag data with it. And
so it's physical web access control levels, access control levels and stuff like that based off your badge.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah,
the smart cards.
As far as I know, that got used fairly widely inside the government, so that felt pretty cool.
Makes sense. And that also probably means that you had what's the what do you call it when you get clearance? Clearance, right?
Yeah. I had a TS at the highest level.
Oh wow.
It's a pain in the ass. It's a very long and grueling process. You have to, when you get your top secret clearance, you have to fill out this thing called your SF-86, which you can look this up. It's a public doc. It's 100+ pages of your whole life. And when you get a TS, you have to fill out this thing, and then federal agents go and check every single line item of it, meet with every person in it, and then go 2 hops further for people who know you. Then you also have to do a polygraph, and then you have to redo that every, I don't know, close to 4 years, which is part of the reason I ended up leaving. Is I didn't want to deal with that process again. I was tired of dealing with the government. So yeah, security clearances are a pain.
Yeah.
And government work in general, even when because I used to be at a government job before my current job, and it's the amount of public data that you're required to have, and then some of the privacy of it.
Here's all, it's it's crazy.
Yeah. And then, the bids, oh my gosh, the bids are horrible, because it's especially because you were more as a contractor, so you weren't technically internal, if I recall, but internal, when we would want to hire a contractor or something like that, the bid process would just be horrendous, because it's now as in a private thing, it's oh, we want to get this new company or something or this new tool. Okay, let's go ahead and just request a card, and then boom, purchase it. Not with the public stuff, you would have to put in a public bid and then take it to council, and then council would have to have a hearing on it, and then it would have to go through the board.
Huge thing.
Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. So you moved on from Visionist. You got tired of the government work. What was next on your career?
Yeah, so the last contract, or not the last, one of the last contracts I was working on was it was a partnership with another, I think it was the Australians Air Force or something. Basically, we were building rebuilding this application for analyzing radar data, and the current application. Oh, dude, this is so bad. The current application, or the application at the time, was a Eclipse plugin, the Java IDE. And these radar analysts, while very technical, are not software engineers. They don't write code. And they were having to come into work and install Eclipse and load up Eclipse and to run this janky software. So we were
wait, so the actual native runtime was Eclipse?
Oh yeah, yes, exactly.
So it's your application that you have to use for work is a Chrome extension, and you have to download it for Chrome.
Yeah, a better example would be imagine you are just you're a radar analyst. You have to come in and you have to open VS Code and open up a random extension.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Eclipse is even more jank than VS Code. So we were rebuilding that to React and to be a SPA. And we had been using a library called Victory Charts. at the time, which like back from like 2016 to like 2021, 2022, like Victory Charts was like the React charting library. Like it was one of the most popular, like to this day, I still think it has like one of the best chart APIs that a React charting library has ever had. So we had used that charting library on a couple of our other applications. And we couldn't use it on this project because like many charting libraries, it rendered to SVG. And the thing with radar data and spectrograms is that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of data points in a chart at one time that need to be visualized. So I started going down this path of replicating Victory's API and rendering to canvas. And at the time I was going back and forth with the maintainer or two of the maintainers on GitHub issues and maybe on Twitter. And it turns out that one of those people was Ken Wheeler. And Ken Wheeler told me to apply at Formidable. And like at the time I had huge imposter syndrome, right? Because like I did not have a good education at all. And like LeetCode at the time was just getting big and like getting like everybody's interview process was hardcore, just like Google gotchas followed by LeetCode. So I was like, this isn't going to work, but I went for it and I ended up landing the job and I went to work at Formidable. And that's certainly the job that like changed everything for me. Like I got to work, like we had members of the React Native core team there, a lot of early GraphQL people. So I got to like cut my teeth with, at the time, a lot of the bigger people in JavaScript open source, and then consulting too. Like consulting is probably the best thing I ever did for my career because it forced me to grow my soft skills like incredibly well. Like you're getting dropped into different engineering orgs every couple of months and having to figure out the incentives of all the stakeholders and navigate new code bases and what people care about and blah, blah, blah. So I say often that like, and I truly mean this, the hardest problems in tech are not technical in nature. It's not scaling or caching, it's people, process, and organization.
And understanding what the hell they want from developers.
Right.
Understanding the requirements. Like,
yep.
Yeah. A lot of painful histories in my career, like just trying to figure out what the hell business guy wants. And then a week afterwards, when we agreed on the scope of work, and they'd be like, "Oh no, that's not what I meant," you know. And this back and forth in consulting, it's especially painful because you get to switch to a lot of contracts and a lot of different customers. So, what kind of software did you get to build there? As a consulting
at Formidable?
Yeah.
So we, I would say like at the time, like from like again the years like 2016 to like 2021-ish, 2022, like Formidable and the developers there had like a reputation similar to Vercel almost. Like I said, a lot of the bigger names in like JS open source at the time were there, and like Formidable people were like speaking at every conference. And so like we were really well known for, and we got hired to do like JS, React, GraphQL, Node. Like that was the stack. That's what we did, nothing else. We would go and do greenfield work. We would do like mentoring and teaching teams React or GraphQL or whatever it is. I worked on like a whole variety of things there, like backend stuff, billing systems, doing what else? Marketing sites, e-commerce, like just across the board. Like and like yeah, it was super rewarding because like I got to see a lot, not only just like different types of applications up and down the stack, but also different like engineering cultures at different sizes, right? Because like 1 month I'm at like a, fresh Series A or seed startup. The next 2 months down the road, I'm at a Fortune 100. And then 3 months later, I'm at a FANG. So I kind of got to see a little bit of everything and got a good taste of how, I don't know, different companies and different engineers work.
Right.
And it also made me really, really good at being able to get thrown into code bases that I'm unfamiliar with and kind of get acquainted quickly.
I think that's really important because that's what I've kind of had to learn myself, because you can know how to code, but if you know the architecture and the high level of how stuff's supposed to work, then you can kind of look through a code base, especially with all these mono repos that are kind of popping up and sort of becoming like the norm for some of that stuff. It's really helpful to be able to actually look and understand what's going on inside of a code base that you have no idea or no familiarity with. Because I was talking to one of my buddies the other day, and I sent him over my code base. It was for not even like a mono repo or anything like that, just a simple Next app. And he was looking at it and he had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, kind of think about how like an app is structured and laid out and stuff like that. And he was like, well, this, that, the other. And I helped him through it. But it's like having that understanding of like a code base. Yeah, I think it's super helpful, especially in the long run when you're working on a bunch of teams and having to help integrate with other people. Yeah.
And like, especially in like the web world, like there's only so many different kinds of architectures out there. Like at the end of the day, there's a client hitting a server somewhere that is hitting a database and probably third-party services. And like the abstractions between all those things are going to vary wildly and can be spaghetti or well-crafted and super clear. But like, once you understand that those are the fundamental pieces that are there, like it just makes it easier to like mentally, at least for me, map what's going on and where.
Yeah. I feel it's actually like even more relevant today. Like generalists are accelerating even faster with like advancements in natural language processing. And, we're getting to a point where intimate understanding of particular technology or extensive experience with a particular framework might not be as relevant as it used to be a few years ago.
I actually think that I go back and forth on this, but I think that's going to matter even more, potentially, depending on how, like, I don't know. I mean, I use AI all the time for coding. Like I don't probably use it as much as other people directly in my editor. I have it integrated into NeoVim with Code Companion, and I use open code that like Dax and Adam have been working on. But I don't know. It's just at times, one day it's like, damn, that's really good. I can't believe it did that. And then other days it's like, this just wasted so much of my time and I should have just done this myself. And I just get knocked out of my concentration state. So like when I'm working on important like work stuff, like I am generally not reaching for it as much. And yeah, I don't know. It just makes naive decisions about kind of higher level abstractions and architecture that I think if you need to maintain code, at least where AI is at today, like it's going to be a pain to maintain if you don't have that deep understanding of the technology the AI chose to use or the patterns it used.
Sure.
But that could change literally tomorrow, and that could be a moot point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a very reasonable point because language models are only as good as the training data sets. And on a lot of these more complicated problems, there isn't a lot of data available on what is the correct way forward. So it makes a lot of sense that super specialists would still be valuable, because there ain't no way language models will learn how to, I don't know, solve a super exotic DNS issue that only happens on a particular type of server. I don't know.
Good old DNS.
Oh yeah, love it.
Oh God, DNS outages are the worst thing that can ever happen to a person. Like, it's half the time, if it's a networking issue, it's DNS. Just think DNS.
I think, I mean, I agree with you. I don't disagree. DNS outages suck. But I also think that DNS is just like one of the most beautiful, like elegant, simple pieces of technology like in existence. And like there's just so many like core primitives of computer science in DNS. It's like recursion and caching and distributed trust. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think DNS, I didn't really know anything about DNS until I started at Vercel on domains. And I wish I had learned about it way earlier, because it's like not that complicated of a spec. And how it works, but yeah, I don't know.
So let's jump into that. So how'd you first get to Vercel? And because you said that you didn't know a ton about DNS, probably just like a standard like computer networking basics type thing. So how'd you we'll start out with how'd you get into Vercel? How'd you lead into that?
Yeah, so one of my former coworkers at Formidable, her name's Kylie, she had gone to Vercel, and she had been trying to get me to come to Vercel for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and timing just never worked out right. After I left Formidable, I went to 2 other startups in between. And then finally, last January of 2024, I was looking for a job again, and she was hiring for her team again. And I was like, Kylie, it's time. So I interviewed, went through the process, and landed on her team, which was not domains. My first team was not domains. I worked on a team called Lifecycle, which was like a team at the time that was responsible for like kind of like the user journey post sign up, like upgrade paths, downgrade paths, project transfers, things of that nature. And then August of last year, domains needed work. Like domains is like one of Vercel's oldest products. Like I've said this a couple times before, but like we have like JavaScript code that's like 8 years old and it has like git blames from like G in it. So it's kind of operated under a shared ownership model, which at our scale today, like shared ownership means no ownership. And just CSE tickets, support tickets have built up over time and tech debt, and it just needed addressed. And Kylie was basically like asked if I had interest in doing it and thought I could do well because like it's a kind of older legacy code base. And that was our whole job at Vercel at Formidable, because consultants don't get hired when things are going well. It's normally a dumpster fire. So I got brought on, started working on domains, started getting some quick wins on making things better and improving the life of our support team and fixing some bugs. And over time kind of built up a vision for where I thought domains could be and started making a case for the team. And at the same time, Vercel started building up like our CDN capabilities, our firewall stuff. And like there was kind of this shared vision of like, what does a domain mean on Vercel? Should it be more of a core primitive? And like everyone was kind of arriving at a similar vision at once and kind of got the go ahead to build up a team. And that's where Reese came on, and Ethan and Elliot and Mark. So since August, it went from, well, really since February of this year, it went from just me being on the team to now there's 5 engineers, and we're cooking away at some exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of talent concentrated in one group of people.
It's wild. Like it is. So Ethan and Elliot started 2 weeks ago. This is their 3rd week, I think. In their first 2 weeks, and our intern, we had an intern, Ryan, start at the same time. In their first 2 weeks, collectively, the 3 of them shipped 46 PRs. Like wild. So like I've somehow ended up with like this slept on SEAL Team 6 inside Vercel on domains and CDN. So we're cooking. We've got a lot of ambitions and exciting things underway right now.
It's going to be the most robust domain product by anybody. It's going to have all of the needed things. That's crazy.
It is the goal.
Yeah. So what did you just inherit domains and be like, this is my passion project? Or like, I mean, obviously I get that you're passionate about your work and stuff like that, but like domains normally feel like, okay, it's just like you set up a DNS record, you set up your A or your CNAME, and it's just you point it and you're good to go. So what sort of hidden or hard challenges do you kind of experience on a daily basis that kind of like make you sweat still?
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly didn't go into it being like domains is my passion. I love DNS and SSL. I'm the kind of person that I can get excited to work on pretty much anything, especially if the people around me are excited about it too. And if I'm given trust, autonomy, and agency to kind of run with something and drive, and like I get empowered to, build my ideas and take things where I want. And that's what leadership at Vercel has given me on domains. And I think you find that a lot across Vercel. Like, honestly, a lot of our teams feel like, I guess I'm speaking for some of my coworkers, but my perception and my experience is that it feels like you're almost like running your own tiny little companies or startups on your small teams. Like you get like, that's the amount of trust and agency we often get. Obviously there's like company-wide initiatives and planning, but yeah, that kind of freedom and trust is awesome. And that's what makes me tick. The things that are hard, one is that so much of our code is like very, very legacy. And like when a lot of these things were built at the time, like, we weren't anticipating having to renew millions of certs every month. We weren't expecting to have as many domains under management as we did.
Do you, if you can't say, that's fine. Do you use Let's Encrypt for those SSL certs or another service?
Today we use Let's Encrypt.
Yeah,
and we go back to OpenSSL.
But I gotta imagine that volume alone, like, I know I'm obviously got enterprise, but like I know if like I try to renew more than like 2 SSL certs in like the span of like a minute, everything just shuts down and yells at me. But what I'm interested in is, you obviously facilitate the purchase of buying domains and I don't think transferring yet, but like buying domains and registering them and all that.
Transfers.
Oh yeah, so then transfers. So a lot of, from what I understand, a lot of those sort of like connectors, it's kind of like BGP from like the network world, where it's not like a one unified API endpoint, and you kind of got to have this sort of like gate at Vercel, and you're like, all right, here's how I can receive this, and here's how I can receive this. How do you guys receive? Is that kind of how it's set up? I'm just personally interested because I feel like that would be like a big issue, because if somebody else needed to integrate something or something like that, then you got to fix that for them.
Yeah, it is certainly challenging being a registrar, and we do work with a upstream registrar partner. So there's a middleman between us and all of the individual TLD registries. Like we're not
okay. That's a little bit easier, because I was like, if you're just a standard registrar, that would be.
You would think it would be easier. We still have to deal with a lot of TLD specific issues. A lot of the nuances of particular TLDs are kind of passed through this third-party API to us to deal with, and that makes it very, very challenging. The current service we integrate with is like a XML API that is, could be documented better and more correctly. And I don't know if you guys.
What's the fun in that? Come on, like that would kill so many jobs if it was documented.
It's been, nailing a TypeScript client for it has been a interesting journey. But I am quite proud of that piece of code I wrote. I don't know. Do you guys know what SOAP or WSDL is?
I've heard of them, yeah.
So like SOAP was like the data transfer protocol that came before REST, and it was XML driven, and like WSDL had like a tie in there. But you could, long story short, you like OpenAPI, you could generate clients from WSDL and SOAP. This particular API is a custom RPC format, so you like can't even generate clients from it. So it's been challenging. So not only is like the API challenging to work with, a lot of the nuances of the individual TLDs are passed through to us, and we have to deal with those problems. And certainly not all of them. Like there is a lot of burden taken off of us for not being that direct registrar, and maybe someday we will be. Certainly not anytime soon, but yeah, our registrar partner certainly does a lot of work for us, and I am grateful for that, but also very challenging at times to work with. So you'll see like a lot of times, like we might not offer a particular TLD, or we've removed TLDs that we did offer before, or we've added TLDs. And that's because like the requirements for managing these TLDs changes over time. And particularly CC TLDs, which are country code TLDs. So somebody on Twitter today asked me about .to, and I went to look at why we are not currently supporting .to. And it has, when you do transfers with .to, it has this like one-off, very specific flow with a transfer code that you have to send to the actual registry, like outside of like the normal third-party API. So there's
like the country code registry, like the country itself that's managing it.
Yeah, the .to registry. So it generally goes like, the person that buys a domain buys it from either registrar or a registrar reseller. The registrar communicates and works with all of the registries, which is like your .con, your .ai, your .to. So like the reason, for example, is like we don't have the time or the systems or especially given like the how old our code is and the way it was built years ago. Like we didn't anticipate it to be at this scale. Like we don't have the means to write custom code for every TLD, right? Like there's something like, I don't know, I think through our registrar partner, we could technically list probably close to 1,000 TLDs, but we're at like 504 or something like that.
There's 1,500 globally of like officially registered ones.
So because of those like little nuances, and just like basically if we can't just use the straight up transfer, purchase, renew, transfer out, trade APIs, like we're probably not going to support it, because that would increase the support burden on us, which is like one of the biggest problems we had in domains. Is like when I took over next to billing, domains had the most customer support issues. So that's the big reason why if there's a TLD that you want to buy with us that we don't sell, it's probably because it has some sort of one-off weird requirement that we would have to write custom stuff for, and we just we don't have the means to support that today.
So okay, you got new guys to join your team.
Yep.
How the hell do you onboard people into this chaos of a system that you're dealing with?
I would say, to be fair, while it is chaos and like legacy, I personally think that the OGs that wrote the domains code, like Javi and Marco on my team now, and a couple other people, like despite it being really old and having like some old patterns, like it is reasonably well written. Like I think the thing that makes it hardest to work with is that like over time, like data models have just evolved in like unergonomic ways that makes it hard to work with. And like that stuff, like you just couldn't have anticipated when you made these decisions, right? Like, so once you get your foundations, like the code is pretty decently written. But yeah, I don't know. I try to lay out when new people start on my team, like here are our services, here's what it does, here's the problems that normally crop up from here. Like this, when you're developing, like the things, like the principles of the team are like, oh, dude, I don't need to deal with this. This is I just got paged by PagerDuty.
Oh no.
It's fine. I lost my track of mine. Like how do we build software on the domains team? And that's generally going to be like a lot of what I talked about at React Miami, like care about your errors, be granular on that, give good error messages to your users, good telemetry, good tracing, things of that nature.
Yeah, that PagerDuty notification.
Everyone listening just had like,
man, that was oh my gosh, I was like, that woke me up. So I'm interested in this. Go ahead, Goose.
Yeah, I'm still really, really curious to hear about the onboarding practices because, like, you guys juggle a lot of things. You do DNS, you do billing, you build UIs, right? Like,
yeah, that is a unique thing about domains is that we almost have to build our own tiny little billing system outside of, like, we have a billing and money team that has like a platform, and we do leverage the platform, but like we also have to take care of, like, because we can't have like a subscription on Stripe or whatever vendor we're using for like a domain, right? Like domain prices change all the time. There might be promotions running, and like not enough people know this, but like Vercel takes no profit from our domains. Like we pass through and sell domains at cost directly. So whatever we get charged from the registries is what you guys get.
So that all comes down from the registry. Do you know if the registry set those prices, or like the
registry set base prices, and then registrar? I'm sure our registrar takes some. I know it is a very tight margin business for registrars. The real money is being a registry, because you're basically maintaining a hash map, right? I've talked.
It's all just managed in Excel. It's not even Excel. It's in like a Microsoft Access file.
I've talked with a couple of companies that run registries, and like it sounds like a pretty lucrative business if you can run a TLD registry and have like any engineering chops at all. But registrar is high touch point, lots of integrations, lots of working with partners, and very, very low margins, because like you can't throw like a couple dollar fee on a domain and be competitive, right? Like you're talking like couple cents at best. So yeah, that gets passed down basically straight to our customers.
Yeah. So one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on this are, or rather what you can say about this, is like the Vercel domains have really picked up traction lately. Like everybody wants Vercel domain. What do you think was the biggest impact, feature, or improvement that you guys got to ship that contributed to that?
It is interesting. Like we see this in the data too. Like over the past, really since like December, like we've seen a curve, and part of that is we've cut prices twice. In November, we went from charging markup to selling at cost, but that was like back in like early November. So I don't know where. We also cut some prices again in January because we got negotiated better rates with our partner, and that gets passed on. I'm not positive if that's correlated or not. I don't know if it's just partially a function of us trying to tell the story that like everyone on Twitter, you know, obviously has this perception that Vercel is so expensive, and like that's really not the case. Like we are very competitive in pricing like across all of our products nowadays, and we have been cutting prices super aggressively over the past 6 months to a year. And you can go back through our change logs or G's tweets and see just like the amount of price cutting we're doing. I think buying a domain on Vercel is really easy. It's only a couple clicks. We automate certificate stuff. We make DNS easier, and certainly it can be much better than it is today. There are some edge cases and some weird places that you can get stuck in today, but we are in the midst of a rewrite of our registrar services. So like search by, renewals, transfers. Are you guys familiar with like the work that Ethan and Reese did on grep.app? Or have you guys used grep.app?
Yeah.
So we're basically going for being the fastest like domain search on the web.
I was gonna bring that up because was the tiled domain search when you like search something and it gives you all the TLDs, was that there before you were there?
Yeah, the interface on search by today has been there from the very beginning. Our new UI has elements of that. Like we still have like that data density of TLDs, so you can see a ton of TLDs at once, but we've got some pretty novel and exciting ways to improve buying a domain.
Anything with AI that you can say?
Certainly. That one feature I'm really excited about is like indicating social handle availability. So like you start NextDev.fm. Is the Twitter handle available? Is the TikTok handle available? Is Instagram available? Do you want to use free text and describe your idea and get domains recommended to you?
Yeah, that was a big thing. Like with I just want to describe like the vibe of my app, and then because I do that anyways. I open up like T3 Chat or ChatGPT or whatever, and
describe your app, get the domain recommended to you, and have an app built and deployed for you by V0 in like 2 minutes tops.
Boom.
That'd be a cool V0 integration.
The other way
that
too.
I might be
start in V0, build an idea, get a domain recommended.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, V0 knows your context, and it could just when you click that deploy button, it could just say, here are 3 domains that you would like to deploy. Which one do you want to purchase? Click. Boom.
That bidirectional relationship is definitely planned.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's gonna be super cool because that's gonna make it shipping legit apps so much more like legit.
We have like, dude, I don't know if I want to spoil it quite yet, but like I'm sure we'll write some engineering blogs about this, but we have like some pretty novel techniques. We haven't written them yet, but we have it basically proved out on how to like really speed up domain searches. I don't know if you saw me tweet about a Bloom filter recently, but we found a genuine use case for a Bloom filter. So there's some pretty cool and exciting, just like engineering stuff, like the stuff that Reese and Ethan did on like grep.app and NextMaster. Like a bunch of that learning is being built into the new UI on the Next side. Really aggressive caching and caching validation. So it's gonna be sick. I'm really excited. And also, there will be cheaper prices again. So,
again, you guys are going to be losing money. What the hell?
Something like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, that explains why the growth and adoption of the product. And by the look,
because like none of this stuff, this has all been like cooking under the covers. Like none of this has been released yet. Like we've released. Domain Connect, like integrating like easily with if you have domains on Cloudflare, like we have like one-click configuration for that. We've improved our like project domains page over the past month.
I really like the ability to, if I have a domain, like for example, I've got a new project launching in the next couple of days, and I have exon.dev registered with Vercel. I love how I can just go to the domains tab on like the project and type like project name.exon.dev, and it just instantly propagates, grabs the SSL, or it doesn't even grab the SSL. I've seen in the little dialogues because it's already populated by the root or the wildcard SSL certificate, and it just instantly attaches and it just works. And that's been one of the biggest things for me, where I'm like, that saves me like a solid like 30 seconds of having to click copy.
Yep.
And we were just talking about the Domain Connect, which is related to the project that I'll be launching soon. And I think that's a really helpful way to sort of have that one-click integration to add domains or whatever, or domain records. Do you see like a more evolved version of like Domain Connect, and like if you could like have your perfect future of it, or what?
Yeah, Domain Connect. So it is a spec and like technically protocol that was published by GoDaddy, and it's like open source MIT, and a handful of DNS providers implement it. And I am less of an expert on this than Reese, so you should have Reese on and have him talk about Domain Connect. But there's like providers and I don't know, services, I guess. I don't remember what that is, but it benefits like the web in general, this spec. Like Resend recently published a feature of using Domain Connect to like instantly configure their DNS records for email. So we've talked with a couple of our partners and customers, and like we're really interested in pushing this spec forward and starting to champion it a little bit more, because like I said, it really benefits everybody, benefits the web. I don't think I've tried to get in contact with the team at GoDaddy about improving, pushing, bettering the docs. Right now it's a rough experience getting started because the documentation isn't great, and like there's nobody really pushing it. You see like companies like Cloudflare, Vercel, Resend stumbling onto it and finding a lot of value when they do integrate with it. So it's something that, yeah, I think, especially as Reese and I kind of once we get through search by and shift our focus to the next thing, part of that will be definitely involve Domain Connect and thinking about more of Vercel as a platform and supporting our platform and multi-tenant customers, and really highlighting and featuring some of our CDN capabilities. So
yeah,
and like it benefits everybody, right? Like if you are building a platform on Vercel and you have customers bringing custom domains, like you want to use us as a DNS provider. And if like rather than going through this flow of having to tell your customer to copy these DNS records over to their Vercel dashboard or their DNS provider, you can just one click and it just happens. Like you basically, I compared it before the stream started to like basically it feels like OAuth for DNS. So yeah, certainly something we want to push forward and make better tooling for and better libraries. And
yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's going to be a super big step. But as we approach the end of the hour, we're going to jump into some lightning round questions for you.
Okay.
So what is your editor, theme, and must-have NeoVim plugin?
Ooh, that's a good question. My editor theme is Cappuccino Macchiato. I use that like everywhere for everything. My must-have NeoVim plugin is probably either Telescope or Oil.mvim. Probably Telescope. I could live without Oil, but having a fuzzy finder is too invaluable.
Wait, what's Oil?
It's like it's almost like a file explorer.
Like Tree Sitter?
What was that?
Like Tree Sitter?
Tree Sitter is syntax highlighting. It basically parses what's in your buffer or file into a AST and then makes that available to plugins and stuff. In fact, I think VS Code recently got Tree Sitter integrations or support. But Oil is like cool because it lets you treat your file system like a file. So like I can edit my file system just like code. So I can like go into insert mode and just change text and it will rename a file, or I can delete a line and it'll delete a file. It's really nice. My hot take there is that I think file trees that like sit on the left side or the right side of your browser are anti-patterns and a waste of space and nobody needs them.
Well, 90% of the planet use them, so not a lot of
people. The planet is wrong.
Okay, good take. What's your daily keyboard?
I use a ZSA Voyager, and I will shill ZSA till the day I die. I originally bought a Moonlander, and I was having like really bad wrist pain, and I like submitted a help ticket. And like the CEO like reached out to me and like sent me videos and jumped on a Zoom call. And eventually it was like, yeah, we'll just try the Voyager, and like great customer experience. So on that alone, I recommend ZSA keyboards.
That's how you earn customers' loyalty.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really awesome. All right, since we're over the hour, we'll ask one more question. What do you think how long have you been at Vercel?
A little over a year and a half.
How long, after being there for a year and a half, do you think is the most underrated feature of Vercel? It doesn't even have to be like limited domains, like just in your usage. what do you think is the most underrated feature?
That is a great question. God, there's so many. Not enough people know that like Vercel in and of itself is like an amazing CDN, and like you don't need to put a proxy in front of us. That's like truly slept on. I also think, and this is something I've started exploring a bit more recently, is like our webhooks are pretty good, which also, spoiler alert, there is a comprehensive set of domains webhooks coming soon. So look forward to that. Yeah, I don't know. I would say actually no, I'm gonna change the answer and give a sellout answer. And I think the best feature of Vercel is when you're working there, getting to work with the people there, because the talent density is like insane, and like everyone is willing to teach, and like whether they're an intern or a principal engineer, like there's something to learn, and generally people are pretty eager to teach. So that's the slept on thing about Vercel.
Right on.
Yeah, that's great.
And the classic closeout question. I don't know if you've heard us ask that for our guests. What is one piece of advice you would share with yourself from 10 years ago?
There is a correct answer. Chat, what's the correct answer? But you can answer.
Man, looking back, I'm pretty proud of the decisions I've made and the way I've handled a lot of the situations and circumstances I've found myself in. I think, I'll go with the answer of start using NeoVim sooner.
Really, that's a new one.
NeoVim until 2022 ish, and like I started using it because at the time I was working in a giant TypeScript monorepo, and there was like actual input lag, and I was like,
wow,
I can't work like this. So I switched over to like just trying to do some work in NeoVim, and coincidentally, I had like RSI wrist pain for like years, from like 2015 to when I started using NeoVim, and like within 2 weeks, suddenly wrist pain gone, and like I'm almost positive it was like when I go to reach for the mouse, that motion. So yeah, I could have been without RSI pain for like a decade if I had just learned NeoVim.
That's interesting. I have a solution to that. That's just as like chaotic evil. I've got a trackpad, which these are slept on. Theo originally put me onto one of these, but I have it so basically my keyboard and my trackpad are right next to each other, and the way I type is sometimes I'll just leave both my hands like this one for trackpad and this one for typing. And if I really need to type something long, then I'll move this hand over. But I can type one-handed pretty well, like for an entire keyboard, and I'll just be like,
"That's chaotic." You weren't joking.
It's very chaotic. But
what's your typing speed with one hand? Like 50 words per minute?
There's a high miss rate. But I mean, it works sometimes.
I mean, you can vibe code, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't even type anyways. I just open up Super Whisper and I'm like, make me a to-do app. But yeah. Anyways, Dillion, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find your work and follow you and stuff like that? This is your minute to plug yourself.
Oh, geez, minute to plug myself. Dillion_Mulroy on Twitter, and then DM Mulroy everywhere else. Twitch, GitHub. I don't know what other platforms I'm on, but that's like my handle everywhere. Just buy your domains on Vercel.
Oh boy, awesome. There we go. We're gonna have to cut that out. But anyways, thank you, Dillion, so much again for joining us. It was a great episode, and thank you guys for watching. Be sure to join back next week. We are not sure who we have, but yeah, it will be interesting because I'll be traveling to San Francisco. And oh wait, no, actually, we do have some cool stuff next week. I forgot what next week was.
What do you mean?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
A lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah. But all right, thank you, Dillion, for coming out today.
Yeah, thank you guys.